Mwiriwe neza. Bonsoir à tous. Comme je le disais tout à l'heure, moi je vais être votre hôte ce soir. Je vais parler en français. Vous savez, aujourd'hui, le Rwanda est un pays dans lequel plusieurs langues cohabitent. Français, anglais, kinyarwanda. Pour moi, ce sera le français. Et je suis avec ma collègue Fiona.
Well, I'm Fiona Mkashima, and I'll be speaking in English and Kinyarwanda. So as a kind reminder, those who are visiting the exhibition, kindly have your seats, if you may, and would love to let you know that by 5:45, we'll start the program. Again, if you may allow those who are visiting the exhibition, we appreciate for sure, but if you may kindly start having your seats as we wait for the others to start by 5:45. Thank you.
Mwiriwe neza nanone. Mwiriwe. Je m'appelle Manzi Ludiangoga, comme je disais tout à l'heure. Certaines personnes n'étaient pas là, donc je vais répéter que je suis votre hôte aujourd'hui, ce soir. C'est un honneur pour moi d'animer la soirée de ce soir, qui va porter sur le livre 30 années, 30 histoires, c'est une compilation de 30 parcours, des parcours très différents, avec des personnalités plutôt différentes des unes des autres. Vous allez avoir l'occasion d'en savoir plus tout à l'heure. Donc, je suis avec ma collègue Fiona.
My name is Fiona Mukashima, and I'm co-hosting the official launch of 30 Years, 30 Stories, as Manzi has just said. It's a compilation, as he already said, of 30 stories of different people from different sectors and disciplines of their journeys during the genocide against the Tutsi, 1994, and of course, the aftermath, whatever happened after, and of course, as a part of the story of their resilience. So we welcome you once again, and we thank you very much for making it on time. And as we just continue, allow me to welcome Dominique Alonga from Imaginary Rwanda. She's the founder and CEO, to have us with the opening remarks. Welcome, Dominique.
Bonsoir, and welcome to all of you, those who were able to make it. I am very honored to have you this evening. Honorable ministers, excellencies, survivors, distinguished guests, friends, partners, and my fellow Rwandans, I wish you a good evening. You can clap. On behalf of the entire Imaginary team, I would like to welcome you on the launch of this amazing, amazing book, 30 Years, 30 Stories. This project, to me personally, means the world. It was a one-year journey from the 30th commemoration of the genocide against the Tutsi, where my team and I decided to embark on this journey and figure out what truly happened to our nation. My team and many, many people in this room have made sure that this book come to life this evening. I want to begin my speech by honoring the survivors in the room. Applause is free. Applause is free. These survivors have trusted us with their stories. Many of them had just started to speak for the first time about what happened to them and how they're healing and how their healing journey is going. I want to thank you. They are the foundation of this book. Without them, this would not be happening and we would not be gathered here. To our partners, the Ministry of National Unity and Civic Engagement, the Kigali Genocide Memorial and Aegis Trust, the Embassy of France in Rwanda and Institut Français, BK Foundation, and the Kigali Convention Center, as well as Never Again Rwanda, and all the organizations that work this journey with us. I really want to thank you this evening. Thank you for guiding us. The Kigali Genocide Memorial provided us very generously with some archives. They also provided us with the networks that we needed for this book to come to life. They provided us, as some of us might know, the book has 30 stories, out of which we have survivors represented, organizations and businesses represented. We have perpetrators represented as well, and religious bodies. We couldn't have done this without the explicit guidance of partners like Minubumwe and the Kigali Genocide Memorial with Aegis Trust. So thank you so much. And of course, the French version would not have been here with us tonight if the Embassy of France in Rwanda did not contribute very, very kindly, not only financially, but also with their guidance. Thank you. To my team at Imagine We, my absolute amazing team. As you can see, we're all young. These guys have worked tirelessly to make sure that the quality of the book that you see in front of you is the quality of the book that you see in front of you. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of us. We've made it. We're in the convention center, you guys, as the youths. Huh? You know, older people always say the youths. And I hope that this is a testament that youth can. I'm slowly moving away from this category, but my invitation to my fellow young people is that we can. So to my team, you gave your hearts to this book, from the interviews, from the research, from the editing, from the design. I really, really want to thank you. I thank my CFO, Sandrine Giza, who is here with us tonight. Thank you, yes. She is the backbone of the organization. Her guidance, her help have been amazing. Valentin Chimimana, our operations manager, is probably running around this evening. Without his brain, we would not be here tonight. Yes. Wherever he is. We have our designers, Joël Disagara, we have Ben, Ruben Nyonguru, we have all of our, yes, Ben, yes, Ben is standing there. Our large team, everybody who has been here, I really thank my team. They are amazing. To my family, some of them are here. To my grandfather, who is no longer with us, this evening is dedicated to him. Thank you for never shying away from the hard conversations. I was 2 years old when the genocide happened, and we were not even in Rwanda. But my family made sure that we heard the hard conversations, that we saw what happened, and that we were aware of what happened. My aunts, my uncles, they're all here, and they really carried our legacy, and I want to thank them from the bottom of my heart. And I also thank them for continuing their support, and because of them, we are all here. Without their support, Imagine We would not be existing today. So thank you. I will be honest, at times, I struggled and I wondered if we were the right people to release a book like this. We wondered if we would be able to ask the right questions. We wondered if we would be able to meet the right people to represent such a heavy and serious part of our history. We wondered, but we did it scared. We did it doubting, and we had all the support of the people who are here tonight, and without their support, we wouldn't be standing in front of you. Young people often doubt the relevance or their role, even their responsibility in carrying the mantle of our history. Sometimes we think we are too young to understand, sometimes we shy away, but this is a first step. This is our first contribution as the youth to say it is also for us to carry the story of the past into tomorrow. So my dream and my goal and my vision tonight is for us to continue carrying this mantle. It's for us to continue to take our story for its fullness. Today we celebrate the joy in this amazing beacon of Rwanda, the Convention Center, but there are people who fought and shed blood for us to be here today. We cannot partake in the joy and not partake in the pain. And that is my invitation to the youth tonight. So, yes. This evening is a call, but it's also a celebration. 30 Years, 30 Stories is a small contribution, and it's a contribution to a collective responsibility. Use your talent. We have musicians. We have a lot of different people who are building Rwanda in their own unique way. If you wonder, should I? The answer is yes. I wish you a wonderful evening as we celebrate the resilience, the strength, and the courage of the people who have lived through the dark but are now shining the light of hope tonight. Thank you so much.
Merci Dominique. Comme tu le disais, cet événement ce soir, ce livre, et même ta maison d'édition, je dirais, est aussi un témoignage que la jeunesse est prête aujourd'hui à reprendre le flambeau de la mémoire. Dominique, je pense que tu es parti un peu trop tôt du plateau. J'aimerais aussi inviter son Excellence Monsieur Antoine Onfray, ambassadeur de France au Rwanda, pour quelques mots.
Bonsoir, mais écoutez, comme cette soirée est bilingue, manifestement, je vais d'abord parler un petit peu en français, ensuite je dirai quelques mots en anglais. Simplement pour remercier Dominique pour ce qu'elle fait. Vous expliquer aussi pourquoi donc l'ambassade de France est là. Pour nous, je crois que pour vous, c'est encore plus important que pour nous. D'ailleurs, il est important que l'histoire du Rwanda soit aussi écrite et racontée par des Rwandais. D'ailleurs, de ce côté-là, je pense que le Rwanda, qui a fait énormément d'efforts depuis 1994, qui a rebâti une université pratiquement à partir de rien, a beaucoup mis l'accent sur les techniques, les ingénieurs, les techniciens, les médecins, etc., a peut-être un petit peu délaissé les sciences sociales, et notamment l'histoire. Et vraiment, c'est important effectivement que cette histoire du Rwanda, cette histoire si cruelle, mais qui est une histoire universelle, un génocide, c'est un crime contre l'humanité, ça concerne tout le monde, elle soit aussi et avant tout racontée par des historiens rwandais, et pas uniquement parfois par des historiens européens ou autres qui ne sont pas forcément pertinents. Et une histoire, bon, ça se raconte, ça s'écrit, ça s'étudie, mais aussi ça se publie. Et c'est pour ça que c'est important qu'il y ait aussi des maisons d'édition rwandaises. Et à cet égard, donc Imagine We, qui a été créée donc par Dominique Ouessé, c'est une maison d'édition rwandaise pour les Rwandais, qui a aussi, j'imagine, des ambitions internationales, puisqu'elle a un titre en anglais. Alors je pense qu'elle elle a aussi sans doute l'ambition de publier en Kinyarwanda. C'est la langue de Rwandais, c'est important, c'est la langue la plus parlée ici. Mais c'est vrai que si on veut avoir une audience à l'international, c'est l'anglais, c'est également le français. On est intervenu aussi parce que énormément de témoignages quand même de survivants sont en Kinyarwanda, ils sont en français. Il y a beaucoup de... si on prend par exemple l'historien rwandais le plus connu, Alexis Kagame, ses écrits c'était en français. Donc je crois que c'est important aussi effectivement pour que les Rwandais puissent continuer à s'approprier leur mémoire, puissent continuer à lire dans le texte finalement ce que les anciens ont pu écrire. Je pense aussi plus récemment à des gens qui vivent toujours. Le sénateur par exemple Antoine Mugesera, il écrit en français. Et donc si on veut lire ses ouvrages, c'est ou en français ou en Kinyarwanda, mais je crois plutôt en français. Et finalement c'est ce qui fait que l'ambassade de France, à travers son service de coopération, a été associée donc à Imagine We dans le cadre de ce qu'on appelle un FEFC, un Fonds Équipe France Création, pour aider Imagine We à se structurer, et puis plus précisément aussi pour faire en sorte donc que ce livre 30 ans, 30 histoires, donc publié à l'occasion de Kibuka 30, puisse être édité non seulement en anglais, mais aussi en français. Donc voilà, now I will maybe say a few words in English, to repeat more or less what I said in French, just to explain why I am here. I am here just because at the French embassy, we saw that it was very important that the history, the tragic history of Rwanda, but which is a universal history, because genocide is a crime against humanity, so it concerns all of us in the world, is also written by Rwandan historian. As you know, Rwanda started almost from scratch, its university after 1994. So they put a lot of emphasis on engineers, doctors, technicians, and so on. And maybe they had to make some choice, they didn't train enough people in social science and in history. But I know that there is also now this ambition, and it's very important that the history of Rwanda is written and told by Rwandans themselves. And it's also very important that Rwanda is able, to have to publish and to edit, books So the CZM, of course, of Imagine We, which is a company created by Dominique USA. The French government, started a tool which is called Fonds Équipe France, Création, to assist, if you like, young companies, to structure themselves, especially in the field of art and culture. And so that's why we decided to support Imagine We 2 years ago. And also since last year, it was Kwibuka 30, there was this very ambitious book, 30 Years, 30 Stories, which is the reason why we're here tonight. And we decided, of course, to be a partner, I would say, of Dominique and her team. So thanks for listening to me, Murakoze Chane, and I will leave the floor to Manzi and to the charming lady. Sorry for I didn't get your name.
It's
Thanks.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, a big round of applause to His Excellency, the Ambassador of France in Rwanda again, please. I just love what he mentioned again, that genocide is a crime against the humanity. That means that it's a good call to every human being around the world to join others, especially Rwandans today, as we commemorate the genocide against the Tutsi. So, as we move forward, allow me to welcome on the platform Mr. Munyenwari Alphonse, from the country director of Aegis Trust and currently representing the Genocide Memorial Site of Gisozi. Mwawikaze.
Good afternoon. Honorable representative of Minubumwe, Your Excellency Ambassador of France to Rwanda, CEO Imagine We, CEO BK Foundation, Ingrid, all protocol observed, distinguished guests, dear participants to this great evening. It's our pleasure to be associated with this great work. Thanks and congratulations to Imagine We for this important work. I would like to begin by expressing my deepest gratitude to the survivors whose courage in sharing their personal testimonies has played an important role in Rwanda's journey of healing and remembrance. These stories are not just historical records. They are powerful acts of resilience that educate future generations and serve as essential tools in fighting against the denial and revisionism of the genocide against Tutsi. At the core of Aegis Trust's mission is the preservation and amplification of these testimonies. At the Kigali Genocide Memorial, survivor accounts form the foundation of our work in education, peace building, and the memory preservation initiatives. These testimonies deepen understanding, fosters empathy, promote critical thinking, and reinforce the enduring values of peace. Our partnership with Imagine We Rwanda was a vital step in ensuring that over 30 survivor testimonies were captured and shared in a meaningful and respectful way. This collaboration was essential in making their stories accessible to wider audience, both within Rwanda and globally. In further support of this mission, the Genocide Archive of Rwanda, a project initiated by Aegis Trust in collaboration with Rwanda's National Commission for the Fight Against Genocide, CNRG of then, plays a vital role in safeguarding memory. The archive has since become the world's leading physical and digital property of primary source materials related to the 1994 genocide against Tutsi. Its mission to ensure this genocide become one of the most comprehensive, documented, and accessible in history, not only to honor victims of survivors, but to honor and survivors, but also to provide a lasting educational resource for scholars, policymakers, and future generations. In the physical archive houses, original audiovisual, documentary, and photographic materials are preserved in a secure, climate-controlled environment to international archive standards. When comparing Rwanda's efforts to those of nations that have experienced genocide, several common challenges emerge, including denial, generational distance, and trauma. Like Rwanda, these countries have had to invest in memory institutions, survivor support, and educational framework to ensure their histories are never forgotten. Rwanda's emphasis on community-based memory work and youth involvement offers valuable lessons for the global community. Youth engagement, and talking of this, I'm thinking of Dominique. Youth leading or being involved in memory preservation. Youth engagement is critical to the sustainable and of memory work. Many young Rwandans were born after the genocide against Tutsi in 1994 and may feel disconnected from the event. However, through initiatives like Peace Education Program, intergenerational dialogue, and a digital archive, we can empower young generation to become active stewards of history. We would also recommend such kind of work. 30 testimonies are not a little number. As Dominique was saying, this is a very big number. It comprises a huge information on genocide against Tutsi history. And we are very happy to have been associated, dear Dominique, to your work. Have a great evening. Thanks so much.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Mounien Ouali. Après ces quelques mots, je vais vous inviter donc à passer une minute de silence en mémoire, en hommage des victimes du génocide contre les Tutsis. Je vous invite donc à vous lever.
We invite you to all stand up to honor all the victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi for a moment of silence. Thank you so much. You may have your seats, please. Murakoze cyane kandi ngira ngo dukomeje kumva how much urubyiruko, the youth or the youths as you may, young people, we are really called to, as Dominique said, to hold this mantle of our history and pass it on as we move on to the future. It's a big responsibility that requires attentive listening and intentional learning. There's no way we're going to really maintain the authenticity of our history if you're not open to learn, listen, and understand, and ask as many questions as we can. So just to mention this, if anyone would have any question in the room, since there'll be many discussions going on, there'll be room for asking questions. And one more kind reminder, we understand that this is a commemorative event, yes, but at the same time, we are celebrating the resilience of victims, people who went through the genocide, who survived, and who went on, achieved life, and achieved big things, you know? So that's why it is very okay to clap our hands, okay? So...
Oui, merci Fiona, exactement. C'est une soirée commémorative, certes, on rend hommage aux victimes, mais c'est aussi une soirée de célébration pour célébrer la vie et le parcours de 30 personnalités qui sont décrites dans ce livre. Donc, sentez-vous libre d'applaudir quand vous pensez, quand vous le jugez nécessaire. Je pense que nous allons maintenant accueillir Claver Ilakose, qui est aussi un survivant, qui est aussi un écrivain et qui s'est beaucoup investi dans la préservation de la mémoire.
So Claver, as you welcome you on the platform, he's going to lead a panel discussion of different other panelists as he's going to introduce them.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the launch of 30 Years, 30 Stories. We've just heard from Dominique, she said it. Tonight we are celebrating a powerful book that amplifies 30 unique stories. Stories of resilience, memory, loss, hope, but also purpose. 3 decades later, 30 Years, 30 Stories is not just a publication. We have heard about it from the speakers. It's a contribution to national memory, to intergenerational dialogue, and to healing. And I have the honor to invite our panelists to deepen conversations around this book. Allow me to invite on the stage Dr. Theoneste Rutaisire from Minubumwe. He's the executive director of the Department of Research and Policy Development. Welcome on the stage. I'm also inviting Dr. Nkurunziza Joseph Yarasa. He is the executive director of Never Again Rwanda. I want to invite again Mr. Munyantwari Alphonse. He is the country director of the Aegis Trust. Last but not least, I welcome Ingrid Karangwaire. She's the executive secretary of the BK Foundation. As the panel discussion progresses, I invite you to follow and also note, if time allows, we will have questions from the audience. So welcome, everyone. I want to start with a national perspective. And my first question goes to Dr. Rutaisire. Minubumwe was established at a critical moment in Rwanda's journey. And my first question is about how does your department in Minubumwe utilize research and publications like this one we are celebrating tonight to inform policy that effectively preserve the memory of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi? And please, could you provide examples of how research findings have been so far translated into actionable policies and programs?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. At Minumwe, indeed, we do research, and like other researchers, we do research to find answers to questions or to understand situations. And above all that, we do research to make sure that our policy-making process is well informed by rigorously done research. And maybe to go to your question, I'll probably use examples to understand how our research findings trickle down to what we do in policy-making process or other programs we do. As some of you may be aware, about last year we put out research findings of research we did on resilience in Rwanda, and this is a research where we looked at resilience at different levels, at individual level, family, community, and at institutional, national level. And in that research, it transpired overall that the level of resilience is really good in Rwanda. And I'll use just one example, resilience at family level, that household. It transpired that indeed the level of resilience is good. Nevertheless, we also saw that there are areas where we need to put more effort. For instance, it came out clearly that at family level, the dialogue between parents and children need to be looked into. Parents need to do some effort. Children need quality time to engage with parents. And when we saw that, something need to be done about it. And it happened that we are also working on the content of Itorero at the community level. Itorero, for those who are not conversant with the Itorero, it's just like our traditional school. And so what happened was that we looked at our findings, and we thought about how we can use these findings to adapt the content to the situation the research showed us. So in that content, we made sure that we also put emphasis on family creation. And starting by the basics, the courtship, the young people, when they are courting, they just have to look at what our culture says, not to skip a few steps. And when a family is formed, is blessed, there are also other things that need attention. When you have children, the rearing process, the quality time I was talking about, the children need. The parents have always found excuses. We are busy, we come back home late at night, and the usual suspect, of course, is, busy days, we are busy, and the weekend we are nowhere to be found, we are in weddings everywhere. So in this content of Itorero, we try to put emphasis on what people need to do to create a very friendly, a very homely environment at home, so that our children, really, they are raised in a way we want. Remember, we are rebreeding a nation from the ashes. And one of the breeding blocks is, of course, our family. So that's why the findings from our study on resilience showed us where we also need to put effort to make sure that our approach is holistic. I also use another example. We are a post-genocide society. It's 30 years, but the scale are still there for everyone to see or to feel. And so what Minumwe is doing is also to support some NGOs intervening in the community, especially in the area of psychosocial support. And they support people because of what happened, the trauma-related issues. There's the issue of also the reintegration of ex-prisoners. These are many people committed genocide in 1994, and most of them are going back home. And it's not easy ride, it's a very bumpy road for them, and for us, because they are Rwandans. So everyone needs to join in, so that we make sure that they are not just left on their own, that they join the whole process we are in of rebuilding a united nation. So these programs also build the capacity of people, especially community health workers. They are supported in the area of mental health. We are also aware that there are programs such as Ndu Munyarwanda. These are, we put emphasis on Ndu Munyarwanda because we know, yes, we have made really good progress, but we can also take our eyes away from a persistent threat to our national unity. So that's why we also put emphasis in promoting Ndu Munyarwanda to all levels, starting from the family, going upwards. So maybe I can just stop there.
Thank you very much for your insight. For those in the room interested in research findings he was pointing out, please visit Minubumwe website and you will find those resources. Dr. Joseph, your story is featured in this book we are celebrating tonight. And my question to you is, how did that experience affect your understanding of memory preservation, and how do you see the power of narrative in Rwanda's healing process?
Yeah, thanks a lot, and I want to congratulate Dominique for this great achievement. But I also want to first apologize. The stories have been put together by the young people. But then the panel is not a panel with young people. So maybe we are mentoring young people. So, but again, this gives me hope because I used to work with Dominique. So Dominique was my comms advisor. So when I see Dominique doing this, because I am already beyond youth, so I become happy that at least we've groomed strong young people. Yeah, coming back to what you've asked, I would say that sharing stories at least helps to preserve the memory. And also given the history that this country went through, storytelling provides therapeutic and self-expression, which contributes towards healing. Because to make sure that we have sustainable development, we need to have a healed society. Because leaders come from society. So if the people are not healed, we are going to have leaders that might come up with traumatizing policies because of unhealed wounds. So the only way to be able to address that is to allow people share their stories, their history, and also to make sure that what happened doesn't happen again is that we need to listen to these stories, encourage people to share their stories in a constructive manner so that we can be able to minimize the generation of trauma. Because in Africa, or maybe even in Rwandan tradition, you find that we are used to telling stories. And I want to congratulate Imagine for at least publishing these kinds or this kind of a book, because we are used. I remember my parents were refugees of 1959. So in December, we would visit our grandparents somewhere there in western Uganda, a place called Gahungi. So I remember when the RPF had signed the peace talks with Habyarimana's regime, my grandfather celebrated, saying that, we are going to go back. So I want to use the words he used. He said, they thought that we shall never go back home, but we are going home. So those are the stories we grew up hearing. But now, I think, Imagine you are bringing in what the society should have. So it's unfortunate that my grandparents couldn't write their stories. Unfortunately, my father died last month. He was writing a book, is it Rwanda Transformation? He wanted to share his experience as a refugee and what he had seen when this country we had returned. So I think the significance of personal narratives in fostering collective healing, there is also that human connection. When I tell my story, when he tells his story, so there is that connection that helps society to at least learn from the stories of others. Finally, it's also this storytelling also provides empowerment. So when if we happen to get the opportunity of reading all the 30 stories, I'm very sure that at the end of the day, we are going to receive lots of empowerment from the different stories that Imagine has been able to put together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just a follow-up question. And very briefly, if you were to describe your feeling tonight, knowing that your story and 29 other stories are being celebrated tonight, what could be that one word or two to share with the audience?
I would say that it's at times when I'm extremely happy, when someone asks me how am I normally tell them that I'm terrific.
So Dr. Joseph is terrific too. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing. Alphonse, you talked about the work done by Aegis Trust and the Memorial, the archive, the Genocide Archive of Rwanda, the Documentation Center at the Memorial. And I have a question about why is this critical and how can survivors be supported while also protecting their well-being? Because, sharing traumatic stories is not easy.
Thank you so much, Clever. As I've said, even in our methodology, storytelling is at the center. Because the storytelling, apart from preserving the memory, it invites the empathy. In our PV, in a Peace and Values Education program, we mostly use storytelling. That when you tell your story, it is not that distant event, but it brings to life what happened. And such preservation of memory is so powerful. At Gisozi Genocide Memorial, the archive we have now recorded more than 500 audiovisual testimonies, and you have over 100,000 documents and the materials. And this is, we see how it is serving for the researchers, the scholars, but especially for the young people, because it is also, it can be accessed on digital platforms. So we feel like we can be having information on genocide against Tutsi through maybe other channels, but you have seen that storytelling, testimonies are very powerful to bring people closer to the reality. And as I've said in the Peace and Education Values program, we have like main 3 pillars that are critical thinking, empathy, and personal responsibility. But we see that when people are together and tell their stories, it invites this empathy of feeling what the colleague, the neighbor, the friend is feeling. So we think this is very critical, and that's why we're congratulating this kind of work, because it adds on. And as we know, I'm telling those thousands of documents and audiovisual testimonies, but it is not yet enough at all. It is really still a small contribution to what has to be done. So, and supporting survivors, as we have said or asked, the testimonies we record is done in a safe environment for survivors, and we provide emotional support during and after the testimonies, and we make sure that we preserve the testimonies and we use testimonies in the way the survivor or the one who gave testimonies, rescuers and others want. If they want to be kept confidential at a certain point, we respect that. And if they want it to be used by the public, we also let it be used by the public. So I would say this is very critical, and we need to support the survivors and the other people who are ready to give testimonies. And I also, again, take this opportunity to thank contributors to these 30 stories. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. To the audience, the memorial, the Aegis Trust has put these testimonies online. You can search for Genocide Archive of Rwanda in Google, and the platform will show up. And it has many testimonies, historical documents, and research papers which were published by Rwandans. Ingrid, the BK Foundation. So, memory work is not always seen as the role of foundations like BK. And I'm curious to know what made you say yes to this project, and how does it align with your broader mission?
Thank you very much. First of all, congratulations, Dominique. Congratulations, Imaginary. You have seen this project come to life. And truly to say this, it's because when Dominique came to first see me, she explained the story. She explained her whole vision of the 30 years, the 30 stories. And at first I was like, this is interesting. But eventually when she had come to see me internally at the foundation and at the group, BK Group, which is a financial holding, we had been really having discussions about the 30 years of after the genocide against the Tutsis. And we're like, what is it that we are providing, to not only our clients, but also internally? When you think of BK Group, we have more than 2,000 staff across the whole country, majority of which are young people. So we're like, after 30 years, what is it that we can provide to them? What torch are we passing on to them? There is the financial ethics, there is the work that we mentor them in their day-to-day life, but who they're serving, the country they're trying to contribute towards, has a huge history, and one that is quite scary, one that really has torn apart the whole country from the ground and we rebuilt. So how do we speak of this story? So when Dominique came, it was very fortunate because she came at the time where we were having these conversations, and we were like, what is it that we can do during this anniversary? What is it that we can do as BK and say that we're passing on the torch to the younger generation in a way that is going to be more appealing to their peers, So it was very great to see a younger generation, Dominique and her colleagues, coming along and say, look, we want to speak of the history, to capture different stories from different angles so that we can speak to younger people, but also to the global audience. We want to capture a businessman who's been around, who has seen the genocide. We want to capture an artist, We want to capture an institution such as BK. What is it? What was your history? What is it that you had to go through, and what has been your journey after 30 years? And so it was very appealing because it's written by young people who are interested in understanding the history, preserving a memory that is so core to all of us, but also it's speaking to the younger people. It's not the panel that we are on today. People can take some takeaways, but it's different from having a book. The book stays with you, you pass it to generations. And it was also a call for people to actually start sharing their stories. Many of us don't share stories. Where were you? How old were you? How did you survive? But this was also intriguing to some of us. We were like, actually, if people are starting to speak out, we should all speak out. And especially more than ever in this time where denial, the last stage of the genocide, I think, is becoming more and more something that we see across different platforms everywhere we go. So really, speaking out has been a motivation. Seeing the book coming into life has been a huge motivation. And as BK, it's a moral duty. It's beyond the normal programs that we implement. Of course, it doesn't remove that we apply for grants and we do the work that we do day to day. But it's a moral duty, it's a civic duty for us to be able to speak of the history of Rwanda and make sure that what the atrocities that have happened in these countries, in this country, never happen again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Maybe a follow-up question would be about your personal experience all along the realization of this project. And the question is about what you have learned in this process. About young people like Dominique and her team taking responsibility to work on a delicate project like this.
It's terrific, as Dr. Joseph said. It's really terrific. I mean, when the project came to life, or when we started speaking or thinking of it, and Dominique was explaining how it would be done, of course, there's some fears, because you're like, okay, it's a bit outside of my scope. But in Kinyarwanda, they say, "Muzawe ntacyo ntabwo bindeba," So it was a duty for all of us to see how we can support as much as we can, provide any guidance that she might have needed, but she had already figured it out. She knew who she had to speak to. She knew the institution. She had to go knock on their doors, and the fact that her team and I think the people who helped her produce, it's all a team of young people. Mm-hmm. So when we speak of we want to empower the next generation, the younger people, it's organizations such as Imagine Me that you want to be part of. You want to have friends like Imagine We, because you see that they're making the fruits that you're planting, the grains that you're planting are bearing fruits. And so I'll say, yes, we were a bit worried that maybe the stories will not come out as well as we wish, but look, they are professionals in storytelling, so they were the right torchbearers, and I'm hoping to see more books, let this not be the only book, maybe, work with the IGs and come up with more and more stories. Thank you.
To Imagine We team, in other words, she's inviting you to submit the next proposal. Thank you so much. You really said it was and still is a moral and civic duty for all of us, and we need more partners to support initiatives like this one. To Alphonse, we know that genocide denial is, the last stage. Genocide denial and revisionism are a real threat even today. What is Aegis actively doing to protect the truth of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, and what role can everyone in the audience today play to safeguarding the memory in our daily lives?
Yeah, thank you. As you are saying, denial is the last stage, but it is equally the first stage because the perpetrators or the masterminders, they deny genocide before committing it, when you're preparing to commit it. They deny genocide while committing it, and they deny genocide after committing genocide. And of course, as you are saying, this is the last phase. And of course, to fight against denial is providing the truth to the whole public. But what we see is not only providing information, historical facts. It has also to be transformational, to make people, especially young ones, as we are saying, people who are able, who are enough equipped to fight against denial. The testimonies like these 31 to have are contributing to it. But they're also going to contribute to change, to move people towards more understanding, more ownership, more commitment. So that's what we see when providing all this factual evidence of the history through especially testimonies and preservation of documents. Yes, it is good, but it has to go up the point it transforms the one who is reading, the one who listened, the one who has at hand this information. That's where we have people ready to fight against denial. And of course, we need to have to work to provide this strength where people can really fight against denial. As I said, what we do through peace and values education is not just providing information or facts, but we seek, especially with young people, to provide to attain a level of critical thinking, of not following and swallowing whatever is provided on social media and elsewhere by the people, by the deniers. And then, as I've said, to be able to feel what those who have gone through this history feel. I mean empathy. But finally, go to the stage of personal responsibility. We especially do this with teachers, students, parents, communities, groups of young people, and we see how they are ready, and also influencers and social media journalists and the other people, to make sure that we have a greater audience and the actors ready to fight denial. Of course, truth, as it has been said, is a big arm to fight denial. So I think, as you have asked, this work is part of big and strong arms to fight denial. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. We got it. Everyone has a role to play, especially when it comes to protecting, safeguarding the truth, but also fighting against denial. We are heading to a few last questions, and once again I want to ask Dr. Joseph, your organization Never Again places strong emphasis on youth engagement. You talked about Dominique working for Never Again many years back, and now she's and her team realizing amazing projects like this one. My question is, why is involving young people crucial in the work of memory preservation and peace building? And how does Never Again empower the youth to take active roles in this process? Of course, beyond Dominique, who was used as an example tonight.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's very crucial to have youth being engaged in this work of preserving the memory, because generations come and go. If you don't have a generation that is conscious about preserving the memory, so that means that the history might happen again. Two, coming to what Never Again is doing is that we've since its inception, the foundation of Never Again has been youth, because we believe that if you get to know the future of any society depending on how youth are treated and how youth own what is being done within their communities. I had a chance to be a volunteer when Gachacha started, I think in 2002, if I'm right. Writing, would go to prison and we ask and we write the testimonies. So majority of the prisoners, when you would ask them, why did you do this? Some of them would tell you that Burgomestri or the leaders, they told us to kill. Or others, they would tell you that they told us to go and kill the Tutsis so that we can be able to eat their cows. So you can imagine killing somebody because you want to eat his or her cow. So that shows that the people who were killing never had critical thinking. So we've been empowering young people to make sure that they have critical mind, because with the critical mind, it contributes towards having a critical mass of critical thinkers who can be able to safeguard the civic space. I would imagine that if this country even before the genocide against the Tutsi, if this country had had a strong civic space with people with critical thinking, I think they would have fought so that genocide shouldn't happen. But the country lacked young people who are critical thinkers, and they were incited by myopic politicians to get into killing their neighbors. So too, we normally have intergenerational dialogues because this society has been traumatized, and we need to have healed society. So, and also to prevent the transmission of intergenerational trauma, it is crucial to always make sure that the intergenerational dialogues are organized, and that's what we normally do, so that we can at least contribute towards healing the society. Finally, it's youth conferences for sustainable and to make sure that we achieve unity and reconciliation at highest level. We need, and I think I thank Dominique, because writing a book, publishing a book, it's also one way of freedom of expression, which also contributes to reconciliation. So in these youth conferences that are organized, it's also one way to contribute towards a freedom of respective expression, so that people can be able to even discuss on these difficult and hard topics. Because when Dominique came at first, by the way, she's also a strong and courageous woman. At one point, she wanted to write a book, Heroines of Rwanda. Yeah. So then when she came about telling me about this book, we spent like 2 hours. Are you going to make it? Are you sure? How are you going to manage the stories? Because our society is very complex. We own, when all of us share stories, you find that we own different parts of our history. Mm-hmm. And yet, history is history. History will never change. But then, because it has been passed over in different ways, depending on the interests of previous politicians, so you find that we own different stories. Mm-hmm. And sharing those stories, at times, you have to be very conscious. Mm-hmm. So when Dominique was sharing this project, you would find that, as yes, Ingrid said, I was advised that you need to be very conscious. You need, but to see that we are here celebrating this outcome, it's very courageous, and shows that we are slowly by slowly contributing towards that freedom of expression that is also vital to contribute towards sustaining the unity and reconciliation.
Thank you very much. I'm warned that we are running out of time, but allow me to ask my last question to Dr. Rutayisire, and this is about strategic partnership. How could you discuss how collaborations with civil society organizations, contributors like Marginal publishers, international organizations, educational institutions have enhanced your efforts in preserving historical memory and promoting unity?
Thank you. well, it's quite broad, but I can only use a few examples. And I want to go far. I will start by what we are witnessing tonight. This is what you get. This is what we want to see. We want to see civil society. We want to see independent researchers, writers, artists joining us in this noble mission of preserving the memory and the history of our country. So what we are seeing, and actually part of our everyday work, is to support people who are doing research, who are writing books, international students who want to come to Rwanda and study Rwanda, study the history of genocide, the post-genocide journey. So this indeed contributed to a broad mission and of documenting and preserving our memory and the history. And it's of course also it's also mad with challenges, because we also have to play the advisory role. Sometimes it's challenging. Some people want to stick to their guns, don't want to listen. We have seen students coming from abroad say, oh, this is what we do in the USA, this is what we know in Canada. And so we do it also with that in the back of our mind, that we also have to play that role, that we also educate. Some that's also starting here. That also we have people, even adults, not young people, who also either don't want to learn or don't want to see. So we also play that role, that we also advise, we educate, and we also do it with people want to partner with us. People are implementing programs, like I said, in the psychosocial domain or in peace building domain, so that we also have this advisory role. We discuss. Someone wants to implement a project. He has some, how do I call it, conditions from funders. And so we have to be there to make sure that the interest of our nation, the threat to our national unity, are not given space. So it's indeed partnering, collaborating with civil society, high learning institutions, independent researchers, anyone. It's very important for us, but it's also equally important for us to make sure that everyone abides by the laws and the rules. I think I'll stop there.
Thank you very much. To our 4 panelists, thank you so much for your contributions. We have come to the end of our panel discussion, and to you people in the room, thank you for your kind attention. Enjoy the rest of the program. Thank you.
So a big round of applause again for Clever and the panelists for such engaging thoughts on leadership. Thank you so much. I love what Ingrid said, right? Especially for us youth, you know, this history is ours and it's our very big responsibility to hold its authenticity. So without further ado, allow me to welcome Intayoberana Dance Troupe. Munyemere nakire Intayoberana kugira ngo tugezeho performance yabo muri uyu mugoroba as we continue. Thank you so much. As a kind reminder, we are launching 30 Years, 30 Stories, a book by Imaginary Rwanda. It's a compilation of stories n'inkuru 30 z'abanyarwanda baciye mu gihe kigoye gikakaye cya jenoside yakorewe abatutsi mu 1994. So ni inkuru buri wese ahangaha arahagarariwe, ari abarokotse jenoside, abagize uruhare muri jenoside, abapoliticiens, religion cyangwa se iyobokamana, abarezi, abartiste, muri rusange buri muntu wese muri society arahagarariwe. So as a reminder for those who came in a little bit late, that's what is holding us all here. It's a good celebration, however much we are reflecting on, as Clever said, loss, a hard time, agahinda, umubabaro, kubura n'ibindi byinshi, ariko again we are celebrating the resilience and the courage and the bravery of the victims especially. So again, dutegereje intayobeana, and I'm pretty sure they're ready. Cool. Thank you so much.
hambere aho bene Kanyarwanda bari bunze ubumwe, batekanye, basangira, basabana, ndetse bahana inka n'abageni.
Sugira usagambe Rwanda nziza sugira mugongo mugaru uduhetse
nuko kera kabaye umwanzi w'ibyiza umubisha rutuku arahasesekara yitwaje idini n'ibindi ati ndaje mbigishe mbajijure mbungura ubwenge nuko amazuru n'indeshya arapima abana b'u Rwanda arabatandukanya yimika amacakubiri maze urwango rwuzura imitima ya benshi ababeshwe ko batandukanijwe ndetse bagakandamizwa bakuza inzigo nuko amazu baratwika bamwe barameneshwa abandi bahinduka impunzi 94 umututsi ahigwa bukware ngo yicwe azira uko yavutse igihugu gicura imiborogo icura burindi ritaha u Rwanda ameza barashira amahanga yicecekeye kandi arebera nuko inkotanyi zoka byara ziti ntidukomeza kurebera ziratabara zihagarika ubwicanyi ariyo jenoside yakorewe abatutsi zihumuriza abanyarwanda zibaha amahoro n'umutekano imitima yashegeshwe n'intimba ibona ubuzima
ngizo ziraje nye ngizo ziraje inkotanyi nziza ngizo ziraje ziratabaye ngizo ziraje n'u Rwanda ngizo ziraje ibambewe ngizo ziraje inkotanyi ngizo ziraje ziratabaye ngizo ziraje ziratabara ngizo ziraje inkotanyi nziza ngizo ziraje ibambewe ziraje zo kagwira ngizo ziraje zo karamba ngizo ziraje ziratabaye ngizo ziraje inkotanyi nziza ngizo ziraje ziratabara ngizo ziraje zo kagwira ngizo ziraje zo karamba ngizo ziraje inkotanyi nziza ngizo ziraje ibambewe ngizo ziraje zo kagwira ngizo ziraje ziratabaye ngizo abana b'u Rwanda ngizo ziraje inkotanyi nziza ngizo ziraje zirakagwira ngizo ziraje ziratabaye ngizo ziraje ibambewe ngizo ziraje zokagwira ngizo ziraje ngizo ziraje inkuru nziza twatsihinze bene u Rwanda rusanganiza zanira baryo kurutaka ducyuye ingandi tubambariye impumbya murezi Imana se bene u Rwanda abana b'u Rwanda bararutashurwa babyaye rusanganiza zanira baryo kurutaka ducyuye ingari tubambariye impumbya murezi Imana se bene u Rwanda zirarisha umutara wose zaganya rusanganiza zanira baryo kurutaka ducyuye ingari tubambariye impumbya murezi Imana se bene u Rwanda iyo mfizi inyombo yarayize icyuye mu Rwagasabo rusanganiza zanira baryo kurutaka ducyuye ingari tubambariye murezi Imana se bene u Rwanda abana b'u Rwanda barutashye tubaririye rusanganiza zanira baryo kurutaka ducyuye ingari tubambariye impumbya murezi Imana se bene u Rwanda iyo mfizi inyombo yayize icyuye zaganya rusanganiza zanira baryo kurutaka tubambariye impumbya murezi Imana se bene u Rwanda zirarisha umutara wose nkanya rusanganiza zanira baryo
amahoro meza amahoro we yewe amahoro yaragane
amahoro meza
amahoro meza abana b'u Rwanda yewe amahoro yaragane
amahoro meza
amahoro meza ababyeyi beza amahoro meza mu Rwanda rwacu amahoro meza mu Rwagasabo amahoro meza mu Rwanda rwacu amahoro meza amahoro amahoro meza abana b'u Rwanda amahoro meza mu Rwagasabo amahoro meza abana b'u Rwanda
holding our lights of remembrance, we remember. It's important that we remember our beloved ones. Over 1 million Rwandan lives were lost terribly while the world watched. We remember the genocide against the Tutsi. Never again genocide. We remember.
urumuri ntirukazime bana b'u Rwanda. urumuri ntirukazime bana b'u Rwanda, tuzaruhererekanya ibihe byose, maze abato bajye bahora iteka bazirikana kandi bibuka. Kwibuka ni inshingano zacu Abanyarwanda, twibuke twiyubaka.
Mwana w'umunyarwanda, ejo utazasitara ahazaza hawe hagahungabana. Ufite ababyeyi turwambariye impumbya, turutegeye urugori, turufatiye iburyo, ufite ingabo z'umutamenwa zikomeye ku muheto, zirangamiye ejo hazaza. Fatanurunana twubaka urwatubyaye, dusenye umugozi umwe ugeza ku iterambere.
Merci beaucoup à la troupe Nayobelana. Comme on vous l'a dit plus tôt, c'est une soirée pour la mémoire, mais c'est aussi une soirée de célébration de la vie. Et de tout temps, au Rwanda, on avait toujours la musique et la danse pour ces célébrations. Donc ce livre de 30 années, 30 histoires, est vraiment un livre qui représente bien la société rwandaise d'aujourd'hui, avec des témoignages de survivants, mais aussi des entrepreneurs, comme on l'a vu tout à l'heure, des gens qui ont aussi été impliqués dans le génocide, mais qui sont repentis. Donc je vous invite à la fin de l'événement à aller vous le procurer, il est en vente. Et je voulais aussi vous dire que peut-être il y a eu des petites frustrations pour poser des questions aux intervenants, mais il y aura un moment spécialement pour ces questions, donc ne vous inquiétez pas. Donc maintenant, ce qui va suivre, c'est le témoignage de 2 survivantes que je vais appeler ici sur scène, Sonia Mugabo, qui sera suivie ensuite de Irma Ihumure.
As we welcome Sonia and Ihumure, who are the survivors, and we appreciate your courage to share your stories in the 30 years, 30 stories. It's among the 30 stories that you're going to read. So welcome Sonia Mugabo to be presented with Irma Irumva.
Good evening, everyone. Like they said, my name is Sonia Mugabo, and I'm a survivor of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. I'll share my story in bits. I'll share a bit of my testimony of how I survived, and then also the aftermath. I'll talk about mental health, and I'll talk about healing. I stand before you tonight, not only as a survivor, but as a daughter, a sister, a wife, and a mother, and a Rwandan woman still learning what healing truly means. I turned 4 years old. Actually, my birthday is on Monday, so I turned 4 years old. I turned 4 years old in May, and while 4 years old are usually beginning to make a sense of the world, I was already learning how quickly life can fall apart. That Thursday, April 7th, started like no other. It was very quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you feel like something isn't right. My mother told us to shower and dress like it was Sunday. So she even cooked for us that day, which she usually didn't do during the week because she was a working woman. But I think that day she was preparing what would be our last meal. Suddenly, after lunch, the silence shattered. A crowd came running down Mont Kigali, armed, shouting, violent. My mom told us to run to our Congolese neighbors. And moments later, soldiers stormed our home. They threw grenades. They were screaming, "You'll die in there." But by God's grace and the courage of our neighbor's gatekeeper, who was Hutu, hid us in his little room, and literally a curtain, a simple curtain, was what separated us from death. The night came, and we were told, because as we were running, my mom had gone to wake up my dad. He had taken his daily nap, but she was not able to wake him up in time, so she just had to run for survival. So we were told that our dad had been killed. And so my mom was very devastated, and so were we. But miraculously, in the early hours of April 8th, my dad came and told us we were going to go to the Kisimba orphanage. It was that day that the parents, when we reached the Kisimba orphanage, because there were children, there were parents, Kisimba told the parents that for your children to survive, I can't hide all of you. So again, we had to say bye to our parents. That night, my mom hugged us tightly, and she gave my oldest sister, Denise, 2 gold necklaces. She said that if you ever go hungry, sell these necklaces to feed your sisters. She then walked away not knowing if we'd ever see each other again. And as the doors shut behind our parents, we heard gunshots. And in that moment, we believed we had become orphans. Of course, as a 4-year-old, I didn't really comprehend, but my sisters, much older, understood, and at that point, they realized they were going to be my parents. For the next 3 months, I was severely malnourished. My skin, my teeth, they began to show the signs of starvation. I cried until there were no tears. I cried for my mother. I cried for Ikivoguto, Fanta Orange. But on June 30th, we were relocated to Saint Michel, and I've pretty much, how can I say this? I've rushed, I don't have time to share everything that I saw at the orphanage, but there's a lot that we saw. They would come and sometimes get the elders, and I vividly remember them shooting someone in front of my eyes. And at 4 years old, just seeing someone just go down, the blood spilling on us, we didn't really understand. And they would come and they would say, "Abana tuzagaruka, we'll come back." And they would be nice to us, but it's almost like it's traumatizing what they've just done, but they're telling us they're coming back. So it was scary. But I want to say, I want to recognize Gisimba. He's actually no longer here with us. May he continue resting in peace. If it wasn't for him, we would not be alive today. I wouldn't be alive sharing my story today. But one thing about survival is not healing. 17 years later, in 2011, the mask that I had on cracked. The energy that I had used to bury my trauma gave away and I broke. The memories, the man being shot, the nightmares. I could not longer really hold myself together, and I was diagnosed with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And later, I had depression, and now I live with bipolar disorder. I felt helpless, I felt angry, I felt ashamed of the pain. I questioned my existence, but then also I felt ungrateful because I had survived, and actually, luckily, my whole family survived. So as a survivor, I felt like, yeah, I'm a survivor, but who am I to even feel these things when I have my parents, I have my sisters, when there are other survivors who literally do not have anyone left. So after some time, I contemplated suicide, but luckily with the help of my family, with the help of therapy, with the help of my faith, I decided to live a life that I would be proud of, that my future kids that I have now would be proud of. And yet I'm here today, not as a victim, but as a survivor, not as a statistic, but as a storyteller. President Paul Kagame once said that our story is a choice we made. The story to stay together, to be accountable to one another, and to think beyond ourselves. And for me, really, these words, they ring deeply true to me because, first of all, telling our stories is a choice. I chose to be here today, to be in front of you today. It took a lot of strength to be here today. But a choice in confronting my pain rather than running from it, a choice to give a voice to those who are silenced, and a choice to give to those who are still living in fear to share their stories. That's why 30 Years, 30 Stories is more than a book. It's a bridge between the past and the present, between grief and grace. Each story within these pages is a thread in the fabric of our nation's resilience. I had to put that in because I'm a fashion designer. We must remember that trauma does not end when violence stops. Its shadow stretches into the next generation. I think we spoke about transgenerational generation. Dr. Joseph mentioned it. And it's very important that even children born years later, they can inherit the weight of unspoken pain. That is why our stories, no matter how painful, must be told. Irma, who will follow me, I feel like I said, she has a story. She lost her parents, she lost her siblings. It's really, wow, I can't find the words to say that. Just to thank you, to have the courage to be able to share your story. They help us to make sense of the past, and they give the next generation the tools to live differently, to live freely. 31 years ago, Rwanda was in ruins. Today, Rwanda is rising. And not because we forgot, but because we must remember, because we must rebuild again and again. Every day we must be rebuilt with truth, with dignity, and that enduring Rwandan spirit that must never die. They tried to kill us, but they didn't know we're seeds. To those still carrying pain in silence, you're not alone. To those born after 1994, this history is yours as much as it's ours. Not to inherit with fear, but to carry with courage. And to those who continue to listen, to learn, and to hold space for our stories, thank you. I believe in truth, and I believe in healing, and I believe in hope, not as an idea, but as a choice we make every day, to rise. As I reflect on this journey, I'm reminded of how silence can also be both a refuge and a prison. For many survivors, silence is a way we cope. We silence our pain to move forward, to function, to rebuild our lives. But healing demands that we break that silence, and that we break it safely in spaces where we're seen and heard with compassion, spaces like this today. That's why events like this, thank you so much, Dominique. I didn't thank you in the beginning, but I wanted to thank you and Imagine We. That's why this book matters. 30 years, 30 stories is more than a tribute, it's a lifeline. It's a powerful reminder that every voice matters, every memory matters, and every survivor, no matter how long, no matter your story, or how long it takes you to speak, deserves to be listened to with dignity. To share our story is not to reopen old wounds to stay, but I think we lived through this, we carried this, but we're still here. We're still building, we're still loving, we're still dreaming. And yes, the scars remain, but we're not just shaped by what broke us. We're also shaped by what held us, the hands that pulled us from hiding. I really resonate with the cover of that's literally hands that are pulling people, like, come, let me listen to you, let me help you, let me pull you through. The arms that comforted us, the faith that whispered, keep going, even when we're no longer feeling like we're strong or we have any strength left. Rwanda's journey, like mine, is not perfect, but it is powerful because it proves that healing is possible, not in spite of our pain, but because we chose to confront it. We chose to rebuild, and we chose to believe in ourselves and in each other again. So all of you here today, thank you for choosing to remember. Thank you for giving space to our voices, and thank you for walking with us as we continue to rise, not just for ourselves, but for those who never got the chance to. May we always remember, and may we never stop telling the truth. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed, good evening. It's such an honor to be here to share my story. I would like to thank Dominique and Imagine We for putting this book together and for honoring us. So, my story is a story of a survivor, one who carries no vivid memory of what happened because I was a baby. I was only 3 years old. But I've spent years navigating the weight of that trauma. So I was born in 1991, the youngest child in my family, the last born. And by the stories I've heard, I was a joyful baby, loved, and my name is Ihumure. It means comfort. So my sister told me that I was given that name because the previous years were very hard to my dad. He's been in prison almost every day, so by the time he started getting better, like it's been some time without going to prison, then I was born. So when they saw me, they were like, this is our comfort. So bear with me. It's okay, I'll be fine. Thank you. So my dad and my mom and my big brother, who was the firstborn, they were all killed during the genocide against the Tutsi. We were so lucky to know how my mom died. She was killed on the 10th of April in 1994. So by that time, she traveled. We used to live in Butare. That's where I was born. Butare is the southern province of Rwanda. So she traveled like 2-3 days before April the 6th to visit her family. And then the genocide began when she was there, and that's how she was killed with, I think, 300 other families in Kicukiro. It's called Petite Sœur de Jésus. They were all killed at that place. But my dad, until today, we haven't been able to find his body. But we assume, because he was a professor in Butare, so we assume, and when we remember him, that's where we go. So, yeah. So me being a baby, you understand the first memories of my life are actually happy because I found myself in my adoptive family. That's my auntie, and my big sisters were alive, were there. So I'm just a child, really, just happy. And, you know, children are very smart, and they are inquisitive. They understand, they listen. So I hear people say, oh, she's growing up, she looks like her mom. And I'm like, who is that mom they're talking about? I didn't know about that. I thought my auntie was my mother. I didn't know I had a mother before, like, I had no clue. And then I really do look like my big sisters. So I go to school, and then kids will be like, but you look like your big sister, but you don't look like your brother. Because we grew up like together with my adoptive siblings. And you know, kids really can be bullies. They say things because they're innocent. So as I grew up, my questions also grew, and I started really like asking myself and asking questions. Of course, my big sisters try to protect me. They're like, yeah, our dad was killed, but our mom is still alive. I think they could see that I was fragile, I was the youngest, and they kind of wanted to protect me. So I remember like one of them really lying to me and telling me that my mom went to Paris. Mama yagiye i Paris mu Bufaransa. Nanjye nkicara mvuga nti Paris mu Bufaransa azagaruka buriya azanzanira na shokora. But of course, by like 6, 7, I already knew the truth. I already knew that my parents were killed, that they're not coming back. But I really hated that truth. I didn't want to be an orphan. It's something that I felt like it was making me feel different. So I remember, I think I was in primary 2, so I was 7. I don't know really, I just woke up and I was like, all my colleagues, like other students, they have 3 names. So I'm called Yamai Humuri, and then my friends were like, let's say Dominique Ouassé, and the name of their dad, like their family name. And then I was like, okay, now that I know the name of my biological father, I want to add it to my names. So you understand, that's already an identity search. It's like an identity crisis. You are a child, you're just 7 years old, but you're already feeling different. you're trying to look for something really to affirm who you are, you understand like this is already the trauma trying to like catching up with you. So I remember like putting the name of my dad, started writing it on exam papers. And then one of my best friends asked me, what is this name? We didn't know this name before. And then I was like, it's a secret. You need to promise me you're not gonna tell anyone, because my dad was called Mbonigaba Charles, so Mbonigaba is the name of my dad. And then my friend, of course, did not keep her promise. She told other people, and I felt so hurt, like, this is my secret. You should not tell anyone that I'm an orphan. I really felt it was a secret. So I went through life like that. One of the things I decided not to do was to associate myself with orphans. No thanks. I wanted to be normal. I would just pick friends, like choose friends intentionally, and I would just choose like kind of privileged kids, because I wanted really not to think about that. So years went by, and that was really a perfect mask for me, because I naturally have, you know, a happy personality. So I would really perfectly hide all the questions and the pain and everything behind a smile, always. And nobody knew, like primary school. And I was a very brilliant, smart kid, like first in class, good personality. Who would think that I'm an orphan? I didn't want to accept that and didn't want to talk about that. So primary school, secondary school, and then it was time to go to university. So I went abroad. I went to China, and that was my first time to actually live alone. Because remember, myself and my sisters were adopted, and you know, it was a big family. It was my first time really to have my own room and to spend time with myself. So everything started catching up with me. I started remembering different scenarios. I started remembering how one day I was in boarding school. I was 17, 18. And then you know how kids in boarding school, sometimes you're just so bored, you want to go home to see your family, and then you come up with a lie. I'm sick, I need to go home for the weekend. And then the headmistress asked me, okay, you want to go home? Where is home? She was asking about the geographical location of my house, like, are you in, because I was in Butare, Notre-Dame de la Providence. And when she asked me that question, where is home? I just busted into tears. I cried, I sobbed, I was shocked myself. And then she's like, what's going on? Are you very sick? Why are you crying like this? But that question was very triggering to me. And I started telling her, my home is in Kigali, but I was born here. My parents were killed. They died in 1994. I said everything to the headmistress, and I was so shocked. But I realized at that moment that it has weighted heavily on me. So that's 2008 or 2009, and now I'm in China by myself. I start to remember all those moments. I feel so like hurt, I cried, and I started journaling, just writing all the feelings. I just remembered just things at school when I was 9 years old, and the authorities came to my class. That day I didn't attend, and they were asking, do we have genocide survivors here? Because they wanted to register them so they can support them through FARJ. And then a part of my class would say, Irma is part of them. Another part would say, no, she's not part of them because we've seen her mother coming to pick her from school. And when I came the next day, they started asking me, those are my friends, so tell us the truth. Tell us, like, are you part of the survivors? Are you not part of them? All those things, like, I started remembering them. So there is something Sonia said about feeling guilty about, you know, what you went through. I had that guilt because I was like, I was raised by a beautiful family. They are so loving. We are so close. Do I really have the right to feel the pain about not knowing my parents? Is it not being ungrateful? So, and then that's how my life was really marked by that duality. On one hand, you are so grateful. On the other hand, you are really in pain because you will have to live with those feelings of not knowing these people you so wish to have known. For the first time, I was able to open up and share my story. It was in April 2019. So you can imagine, the first time I shared my story, everyone was so shocked because they've known me for an entire life without really knowing that I was a genocide survivor. But it took me really like years to get there because I started journaling, I started like really crying and grieving from 2012. So from 2012, I was able to share for the first time in 2019. So there's something I love to share when I talk about healing, when I talk about trauma. So it's about that unspoken trauma. Many of us carry unspoken trauma, whether from genocide, abuse, abandonment, or silence. The scars are not always visible, but they are real. And until we face them, they shape how we live, how we love, how we relate. In Rwanda, where the shadows of genocide still linger, healing is not only personal, it is generational. Parents must heal so they don't pass down hidden pain. Children must be allowed to feel. We must break the silence. We often think of trauma only as the big, life-shattering events. Here we're talking about the genocide, violence, or the loss of loved ones. These are what we call the big T traumas. And they leave visible scars. But there is another kind of trauma we rarely talk about, which is the small T traumas. These are the quiet wounds, the emotional needs that were not met, the moments when we were not comforted or when our feelings were ignored. Children don't just need food or shelter, they need to feel safe, heard, and unconditionally loved. And when those needs are not met, even in subtle ways, the impact can run deep. Both kinds of trauma matter, and both deserve healing. That is how we nurture strength, not by hiding pain, but by holding space for it. I stand before you today as a survivor, yes, but more than that, as someone who chooses to heal, someone who chooses to turn inward, to peel back the layers, to cry, to question, to grieve, and then to grow. Healing is not about erasing the past. It is not about forgetting. It's about making peace with what we have lost and finding the strength to live fully with what remains. So I ask you not to look away, but to look within. Are you truly healing or simply avoiding the pain that still lingers? Because healing begins not in silence, but in courage and hope. Hope begins the moment we decide to stop surviving and start living. Thank you.
I'm at a loss of word, but thank you so much, Sonia Mugabo, and thank you so much, Irma, for the courage and the bravery, not only to have continued the life after that, but also to share kind of painful stories to us as the younger generations. It's another way for us to know and to contemplate what those people have gone through. Again, as a kind reminder, we as young generations, as Dr. Joseph has mentioned, need to maintaining a kind of history. And if you're not aware and awake, and if you're not intentional at listening to these kind of stories and to dig deep and understand what it is, we will fail. And I don't wish any one of us to fail this mission of not only passing on this mantle, as Dominique said, but I wish you success on this journey of yo gutwara n'amateka yacu agoye ashaririye kandi tukageza agomba kugera, which is passing on to the next generation and on. So without further ado, let me welcome Dominique Alonga as the panel moderator for the next panel. Aratwakira n'abandi panelists, of course, and then we'll continue our program. Welcome, Dominique.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to extend my word of thanks to both Sonia Mugabo and Irma Ihumure for their courage, not just in sharing this story tonight, but also the long process that it took us to hear their stories and include them in 30 Years, 30 Stories. Tonight, we have a very interesting panel. I would like to call my panelists, Irma Ihumure, who has just shared. There are a few things that I would like for her to dig a little bit deeper on, so please come back up. Sonia Mugabo as well, please come back up. We have Fiston Mudachumura, who is an author, who is a survivor himself, and who has dealt with an interesting identity duality that I'm very happy to discover with him tonight. And last but not least, we have Hope Azeda, who is the founder of Mashirika. I believe that those who have been in Rwanda know about the contribution of Hope Azeda and her team in creating commemoration through art. So let's give them a round of applause. 3 of these panelists are in our book, 30 Years, 30 Stories, and hopefully, Fiston, in the next edition, we will welcome you as well. Thank you so much, and I'll try to make it short so the audience has time to ask questions. Thank you. All right. Thank you for having me as your host today. I would like to start my question with Fiston. Fiston wrote a book called Born Hutsi. And in that book, he confronts his identity growing up as a survivor and learning eventually, as he was growing up, that his father had not only associations with perpetrators. It was a very hard learning for him, and he dealt with a very important question that a lot of people in Rwanda have. Am I a survivor? Am I a perpetrator? Where do I fit? I want to ask you, how did the journey of writing the book not only heal you, but also bring out this duality that you talk so freely about now, actually? Tell us.
Can you listen to me?
Yes.
I want to make a simple clarification. By the last I checked, a survivor is someone who either was on the list of the Tutsis who were supposed to be killed during the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, or someone who was being hunted even if they were not on the list. So maybe it's a point of trying to cross-share so that I don't brand myself as a survivor. I learned it afterwards also. So Can you repeat the question? I was cut off.
Just tell us, how has it been for you dealing with this identity, figuring it out? What has been your story?
Okay.
Especially for those who haven't read your book, by the way.
Okay. I don't think many people read the book. I apologize in advance. If you see me smiling, it's a similar case to my colleague that I presented before, and it's some kind of defense mechanism I developed while young. When things are too serious, I tend to put on a smile face. I'm still learning around it. So for you who have not read the book, I don't think it's many people. The title was capturing. Many assumed that because I'm a writer, but also I'm a publisher by profession. Even if I'm older than you, but when I grow up, I want to be like you. So the title, I only did a few 50 copies just to check how are people going to respond to the market. Even if it's too outside that they think like I printed like 1 million copies, so it's just only 50 copies to check how it is. It was an interesting, and to give a background for you who did not read the book, I didn't invent the word Hutu, which is like a combination of Hutus and Tutsis. The word, I also did school in literature and publishing. So the etymology and the history of it, it started by a Burundian diaspora in Paris in the early 2000s. So in Burundi, for you don't know, they kind of have like almost close to Tutsis animosity between them in their history. So the Burundian diaspora in Paris in the early 2000s, they are the young ones. At the time, they created an association which they named this word. Maybe I was the first in our recent literature to claim the title and use it on my book. My story and the background, it's based on my family and growing up with my family. It's as colorful as a Rwandan family that you can think of in terms of being Rwandan. Historical background, for you who know a bit of history, I'm part of the descendants of a guy who used to be called Busichete. This Busichete were some of the Watqua servants in the royal courts, and there's a whole history and myth around him. And in the recent history, some, like the mother of my mother, that my grandmother had a sister, and one fled the country in the 1960s, had also another family in Uganda, and the side of my mother stayed in Rwanda, and then funny thing, as I told you, my family is as of Rwandan history in terms of family as you can explain it. So I don't know if we have some cadres of RPF in here, or I assume there are many members of RPF in the room. One of the founding members, actually we happen to be relatives, one of being a close from this, you can cross-check after a guy called Butare James, and another one who is alleged, maybe some of you young one can try to remember, is a guy, the recent past Dr. Soldier Joseph. But so now that explained background, now recent history of the 90s. My mother, who was a young lady at the time, I think she was in her early 20s, meets a young man who was an engineer. To put you in a history of perspective, so, how many of you know or have heard a guy called Renzaho Tarisis? Yeah. So for you who don't know, he was a military guy. He was also a mayor of Kigali during the genocide against the Tutsi. I think he is also charged, I think, in Arusha or something like that. So my father was an engineer and a young entrepreneur at the time. He was associated with him business-wise and allegedly politically, in a way. And we were based in Rwanda in the east. So all this case, but also my father is one of the missing people from the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, even if he was a Hutu. Now, moving forward, I'm here now. Don't be distracted by my boldness. I'm the same age as Sonia here, which means I'm 35 years now. 1994 genocide, I guess that just happened when I was 4 years. So for me, what I saw as a child, some of the memories also were just like memories. And the thing, of course, after that, the genocide against the Tutsis, my family, most households in the past, it's not like the modern woman family of today. We had to move in with other families, survivors, my mother's side. Now, I went into a lot of background.
Yes, you did.
I'm outside the topic.
Yes. And maybe don't worry about, we will make sure you have time to elaborate, but
Okay.
my question is really around your search for identity, especially being someone of mixed ethnic background, and how are you healing in this current modern setup? Yes.
Me too, I didn't have time to really digest all that. Also, almost a similar thing from Irma, me happened in COVID. In COVID, I was still single, living in my own ghetto, and as you remember, it started in March, and April, we commemorated, but online, and this reflecting and thinking, and me, even if I'm a writer, I'm a publisher, my niche was in children's books, so I had never thought about writing for the adult audience, and I felt like maybe this time, let me start writing something. So that's when I started thinking about it and reflecting on it. But to deal with it, I think on one hand, when I used to attend events to do with commemorating the 1994 genocide against the Tutsis, you feel like you're trying to hide. You feel like I don't want. It's like everyone can read all that background history. That's what you assume in your face, and you feel like you're trying to hide something, and you feel. But by the time that I managed to write and put it out there, I put it also on Amazon. You can locally I made 50 copies, but on Amazon people can get it. So I felt lighter, if I can call it like that. So that's why I think your question came around, how do you take it so easily, or you put it? I think the lightness came afterwards, putting the book out there, and I feel like all the weight of history that I had also they think of like when you're in your 30s, it's when the midlife crisis kind of starts. You're no longer young, and you start to think about your life, what my life has been like,
Yeah.
where am I going, who
So
am
sharing
I? Who am
basically
I?
made you feel a lot
Yeah.
lighter.
Yeah.
And incorporate. And maybe for those who are here today, the panel really will be centered around healing. And Fiston is healing through writing, and the healing journey is quite new, as we can all hear, and same with Irma and Sonia. And I will come back to you, Fiston, but I want to go to Hope Azeda, who has been around and has really been instrumental in using art as a tool for commemoration, and especially in a culture that we weren't quite familiar with how to use art in commemoration. How does using art in commemoration also not only contribute to community, because you've brought young people together, but also contribute to healing, and then also in your personal journey to your own healing?
Thank you so very much, and congratulations, Dominique, on 30 years. 30 stories for 30 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are 30 seeds, not only planted, but preserved as well. Congratulations, and a big hug and thank you to Comfort and Sonia. I'll take your stories forever. So in this process of using art as a tool for social transformation, we've also learned when stories come like this, we receive them as gifts. And as artists, we are indebted to give them back to community as gifts. And we are responsible. It's not just another story. That's what I've learned in Rwanda, because my background in theater was really about Shakespeare, Greek drama. I was taught all sorts of things, about Brazil theater. But I found myself in Rwanda, approached and honored to be sharing and using the tools I've learned to bring communities together and talk about this. Most importantly, in a place like the stadium. That was the biggest challenge for me in my life. And I remember 10 years after the Rwandan genocide against Tutsi, when we were approached, we started with 20 artists, then it came to 100, then to 1,000. It was not easy as it looks. We realized that even us as artists needed to first heal. But I remember at that time, we are working on a story 10 years after. It was inspired by a young boy I had met in Narama Church, who had survived in his mother's womb, because the mother was pregnant for 4 days, and she hid under dead bodies in that church for 4 days. And then this boy was standing 10 years after, listening to the mother telling a testimony of how he survived. And for me, art has always been an encounter, and so is life. I asked myself, I was just looking through the eyes of this child, was like, what is this child going to speak about 20 years to come? So immediately we embarked on having a 10-year-old boy be the narrator in the story we told. But through that whole process of trying to, how do we even tell this story? The Rwandan story is not just another story. It's that one story that asks you, are you listening? It has to trust you first before you engage with it. And that's what I've learned about the Rwandan people. They have been very courageous to tell their stories, and they've also made us be brave enough to at least try to step in that skin of that story. So it has not been that easy, but again, for us, we have found art to be the greatest tool to create a safe space that can invite empathy, that can help people unlock to tell these stories. So that's what has been really very helpful. And I remember 20 years again, when we were working on Shadows of Memory, we were looking at the 10-year-old boy had become 20 years. And now these 20-year boys were behaving differently from the 10-year-olds we had worked with in 10 years after. They were here to look good on TV. They didn't know anything about remembering, because if you look at the word remembering, you can only remember what you have seen. So how do you remember something you have not seen? So when we were approached again to do this piece called Shadows of Memory, which, by the way, shadows came from my father, because I told my father, I thought I was going to do one production around genocide. My dad told me before he died, he said, your story is your shadow. It lives with you, and it will always walk with you. It is your history. So that's when I was like, you know what? We are here to embark on this story till our last breath on this earth. And we realize it's not just an ordinary story, it's that story that calls for truth and facts.
Yes.
So I remember the 20-year-olds that came, that we first worked with in the Petit Stade. They were there to just come and look good on TV. We were like, guys, we have a long story. This is going to be a bit of another process. What we are going to do, we are going to first prepare them mentally. So we asked them to go and bring one item of anyone they have lost in their lives. And that one item was going to be their focal point to start telling the Rwandan story. Because if you don't feel my pain, you cannot talk about my pain. And the Rwandan pain is quite another pain.
Yes.
It calls for you to engage yourself, step in the skin of that pain, try to connect.
Yes.
Because how would you connect with the story of a woman who was mass raped when you are not mass raped? It's not done, and so that has been really our way of trying to encourage other artists to do more homework, to understand the story, and then get embark on that journey of telling that story.
Thank you so much. I think this really deserves a round of applause. What a profound, profound, profound answer. As someone who grew up watching the plays that you've put on, incredible, incredible. And also for the younger generation, I believe that was our one tool to actually try to learn, because it was more relatable, it was more palpable. So we really, truly thank you for your work for the last 20 years, every April, every different places, be it in the Genocide Memorial, be it in different venues, you've really shown us the light and shared the stories of many. Thank you so much. I want to come back to Sonia, who generously shared her story with us. And personally, when I was interviewing her, because I interviewed her personally, she talked about how she is part of the survivors who take a lot of pride in creating new families of their own. And there's a lot of healing in now survivors who are forming families of their own. I would like for you to talk about this legacy, this planting of seeds through creating new families. How does that impact your healing journey? And what are you learning about healing while parenting, actually?
Thank you. Again, amazing. First of all, can we clap for Dominique once more? I don't think we've clapped really for her, and imagine me. And for me, I think when we spoke, when she interviewed me, I'd just become a mom of one boy. His name is Xander. But now I'm a mom of two boys. I actually had a baby about almost 2 months ago. So I'm a mom of Xander and Cohen. And for me, having these two little boys has been life-changing. I think for so long, I lived my life in pretend, I guess I didn't know who I was. And that's part of because I was not healed. And so having these little boys of mine, I think I feel more alive again, in the sense that I am living for them. And showing up every day as their mom is very important for me, so that I also look at them and then I try to picture myself. Like Xander is 2.5. I can't picture a 4-year-old going through, I can't picture Xander being 4 and going through what I went through.
Yes.
And so it's been healing. I've been showing up for them in person, spiritually, and also just being the best mom I can be for them. But then also I realized that showing up for them, I have to show up for myself. And that's also been part of my healing journey. Self-care, having intentional relationships, doing meaningful work, sharing my story. Because again, I always feel like, I think we've spoken about it, not myself, I think the previous panel as well. We need to be healed to be able to not pass it on to our kids. So if I'm not healed, then I don't know what will happen. Maybe Xander and Cohen are also gonna experience this trauma. So I have to be intentional in the way I live, but also I live for them. And so also it's also made me realize that I had so much darkness in me and I didn't realize it until I became a mom, because I'm so protective of these little human beings. And so, yeah, it's a healing process, but it's also being vulnerable, being very like removing the mask, like being here today for me, even I know I'm going to sleep well tonight, just being able to have, been on this panel, talk to different people, heard stories that are very inspiring. And so, yeah, it's about being intentional. It's about showing up and just doing the best that we can.
And before I leave you, I think there's a few survivors in the room as well who are curious. You mentioned PTSD, you mentioned anxiety, depression. These are real things that are not being spoken about in our society, not as much as we want. PTSD sometimes can be spoken of, yatoromye. Growing up, I used to hear, runaka yatoromye. It meant it was very external. But what we don't talk about is what people sleep with, what they stay with at home. What would you say has worked for you that other survivors can begin to attempt or try out in terms of healing, especially with serious cases like PTSD, anxiety, and depression?
I think Irma talks about having a secret, and it's funny because when I was younger, I had a lot of secrets within me as well, and I felt like I was very secretive. I felt like even in my own family, I felt like sometimes I'd be sitting at the dinner table and they didn't know me. I'll literally look at these people and I'm like, yeah, you're my family, but you actually don't know what I'm going through. And what I learned when I grew up was community is very important, because once you isolate yourself, then you start having those voices in your head, and then you start creating a sort of like cage around yourself, and then you become a loner. Like you actually really become alone with you, your darkness, and your voices within. And so what I learned it didn't happen spontaneously. It's because I was having these nightmares in 2021. I was in college and I was not sleeping because, like I said, they killed a man in front of my eyes, and like that dream, that nightmare kept on appearing every night. And I'm like, what is this? And I never told my mom. I'd never told my siblings. But then I was in school, I was away from my parents, and there was a college counselor, and I went to see them, and somehow, like what Irma said, actually, our stories really resonate when you were telling the headmistress everything. I literally also blurted out everything to the college counselor, and she was shocked because I was smiling, I was happy, I was showing up, I was an active student, I was an A student, but I started not caring. I didn't want to go to class anymore. I just wanted to sleep. And so that's when I knew there was an issue, and the college counselor suggested that I actually have like an evaluation, and I was not open to it because, again, secrets. And so when I did it and they told me PTSD, I was like, PTSD? What is that? And they were like, you have to take medication. I'm like, what? How am I going to take medication when I'm not? Like when you take medication, you feel like you need to take medication for something that you can feel. But this was mental. Like 2011, it was really, there was nothing about mental health in this country, and like we've spoken throughout the night, we are a traumatized generation, but also we had to survive. And I always look at my parents, and I remember when my dad was still alive, all his best friends had been killed, and everything was in the past. His story was of the past. And I remember when I was going through this, I asked him, I'm like, how do you manage to show up for us? Because he was a very loving dad. And he's like, well, you're all I have now, and what can I do? Like, this was taken away from me, but then I still have you. I still have this family, so I have to protect it. And so to survivors, I think I kind of went off topic. I just want to say that, take your time. It's not a run in the park. It's not something that you're going to force yourself to do. But one thing that I'll say is your silence is valid, but then also your isolation is very isolating. It's lonely. And there are people who can literally listen to you. You can even start with that one person that you feel like you can trust. You can start with yourself, because I think sometimes we almost feel like, my grief is too much for anyone to bear. Or, like I said, I had my parents, I had my siblings. Who am I to complain? I had a good life. I had a good education. But these things don't have a formula. So one thing that I'll tell survivors is that you can be heard, and like platforms like your book, events like this, safe spaces It's very important, and just knowing that you're not alone. You're not alone.
Thank you. Thank you so much. A round of applause. I really resonate a lot with this. When my team and I were thinking about creating this book, we really thought, why would we be relevant, there's this, I was 2 years old, but I wasn't around. And you feel like, oh, if you weren't around, you don't have any trauma. If you don't have any trauma, or whatever trauma you have, you must get over it. And the thing that is very interesting about trauma is that it's very mental, like you said. It's not a wound that anyone can see. And what I really appreciate about our government is that they instilled in us this feeling of move forward now. And we moved forward. We rebuild. I believe Claver, who also published a book with us, talked about how after the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, a couple of weeks later, he was, I believe, 9 years old. He was back to school, back to school. And there was this thing about, let's move forward, until we were forced to take a pause. And I think we are all part of this big communal pause to think about what's been happening to us. And the different ages experience it very differently. And this is why it was very important for us to include different generations. So I'm very grateful for you to share the invisible wounds that we carry and the pressure to move on, the pressure to get over it when it's not something that anyone can get over. As we even compare different genocides throughout generations, I believe the Holocaust youngest person is probably in their 80s now. They still have traumas, even their great-grandchildren do. So we are still talking to people who were there in the flesh. And the expectation of healing, like she said, is not tomorrow. So yes, do take your time and find the safe spaces, like you said. Thank you so much. Irma. Irma is one of the strongest people I personally know. One thing that she did not talk about that I want her to talk about tonight is the fact that her healing has not stopped with her. Currently, not only has she done the job by herself of gathering 30 stories of women survivors in the last year, she's also taken a step forward of renovating homes for survivors. I would really like for you to talk about that project, but also how is that contributing to your personal healing? Because I feel like that's a push. And there is something that you said to me personally, and I think it's safe to say here that you felt when you were building the recent house for one of the women, you felt like this could have been something you would have built for your mom. And yes, it carries some healing, but it does also carry some wounds. I would love for you to share what you can about that journey and that project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So last year, when I started doing the interviews of 30 women who survived the genocide against the Tutsi, I didn't know it was going to be that hard, and I also didn't know that it was going to be that impactful. So I just have the passion of storytelling. I'm a listener. I love to listen, I love to share, I love to talk. So it was really that. I'm like, yeah, it's a special year for our country, 2024. It's like 30 years after the genocide, 30 years of liberation. It was really, when it started, it was more of just, let's share. It's an impactful project. But I believe after a couple of interviews, myself, I felt like I was not capable. I totally felt incapacitated just to move on and continue with the stories because they were so heavy. It was my first time myself to hear about that. So I was learning because I didn't interview them before. I would meet a lady and I would just tell her, my name is Irma Ihumure. I'm not an NGO, I'm not an organization, I'm just a survivor. Would you like to talk to me? And I could see that the fact that I was a survivor myself made them feel comfortable. And they would be like, oh, okay, I can talk to you. But you look young. How old were you? Because these women, they are between, the majority of them, they are between 45 plus, 50 to 60. And then they would just talk to me. And then I told them, if you're not comfortable to be on camera, we can hide your image, we can hide your identity. And that's how they were so open to talk. And they shared, you know, in our culture, we don't really share that much. It's like, yeah, we are kind of like secretive. And it made them comfortable when I told them, I can actually hide your identity, just talk. And they really shared all the details, like I've been raped by 33 men, I have HIV/AIDS, I have cancer, so many scary things, like they killed my husband and I was holding his head in my hands. They killed my son and I was holding my son in my things that are really, really terrifying. And what shocked me, the majority of them, it was actually their first time to share their testimonies. So it was really healing to me. Of course, I had to do therapy. I was crying almost every day. It was really difficult, you know that. But what it taught me was, okay, Irma, you see that the fact that you have chosen the path of healing, do you see that now you are able to actually hold the space for other people to heal? Now you are capable to create a platform that women can come on and just cry and share their stories. So after seeing the impact of the project, after seeing like how it was really something that I wanted to keep doing, I decided not just to share their stories, but how can I get to know them better? How can I see how they live, their lifestyles, everything? So when I visited one of the women, I realized that her house was in a very bad condition. And I talked to a few people and got some like funds, and we renovated her house. Like the before and after, it's unbelievable. Yeah. So when I saw the joy, because this is a woman who has lost everyone, like kids, husband, everything. Like she's just alone, and she's HIV positive. She's like 56, almost 60. And then I think my mom will be today maybe in her 60s, if I try to count. So it gave me that feeling, like, imagine if my mother would have survived and maybe I would have been killed and she would be in this condition. Imagine if somebody would come and actually change her life. So the fact that I'm a survivor, like when I do these things and when I tell people, let's actually help them, it's giving really somebody hope, changing someone's life. And it resonates with me because this could have been my mother or my auntie. Yeah. So in long story short, this has really changed my life. And I feel like it has even healed me more. The fact that I'm able to create that joyful moment for people who have gone through pain. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Because of time, I think I'm going to open it up to the audience. Maybe the protocol can be around, or our MCs, so we can have a conversation. If you have a question, yes, we have already one hand up. You can let me know who you're, well, you can address it to whoever you're addressing it to. Please be very brief, and as our panelists answer as well, let's be very brief. Up next, we have the handing over of the books, so that's going to be very exciting. Thank you.
Thank you a lot. My name is Emmanuel Dagano, and my question goes to one of the ladies in the extreme ends. Either this lady here or any of the ladies. So my question is, so it's better you sharing your stories and as the early, rather the survivors, the young survivors of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. But also the concern I have is the story or the testimonies of the other side. I mean the side of the people that organized and put the genocide in action. There are people your age, the people that survived 1994 genocide when they were in 3, in 4s, in 5s, who do not share these stories. There are some things they saw, but right now I haven't heard from any of those sharing the stories of what they saw, of how they saw their parents killing people in the genocide. And this gives me concern of how hard it's gonna take for all of us to come to one point of fighting against the ideology of genocide. So as people who survived, how do you see this? How do you see this maybe in the coming years? And maybe it may be for the reason of the good governance that we have, but these people are also getting married, and they are producing children whom I think there's something they have held for themselves. They are teaching they are teaching to the young kids.
Yeah, that's a really, really good question.
And I would like to hear your view about that, maybe for the couple of years, 20 years to come, if it happens, the leadership of the country
Thank you,
shifts.
thank you, thank you, thank you. Who is feeling brave? That is I've never heard. Yeah. We also have Never Again. We still have Minubumwe. I believe we still have Minijust. If this question is a little too tough, feel free to, yeah. Whoever.
I think personally, I have interviewed. I think you're trying to refer that we perpetrators to have also like to be given platforms to speak, right? Yeah, the kids. Yeah. On the artistic point of view, we have really engaged a lot with also interviewing perpetrator kids. If you look for a production called Generation 25, we had all sorts of young people with different backgrounds. But I think also when you go to archives like Aegis Trust, because they're also our partners, you cannot even count them. There are all sorts of testimonies and stories like this. Yeah, so we have been brave enough to bring also perpetrators on stage as well. And one I can talk about is Manuel from Nyamata. I think for him, during genocide, he focused a lot on killing children. I was very intrigued on how he still works in orphanages, but his entire spirit and soul really loves children. And he's been forgiven by society, but he's still struggling, going through a healing process of saying, every time, or every April, around 7th of April, the kids he killed, he hears the voices when he's sleeping, and he hides to cry. So he told us that humans are humans. Everyone has forgiven me, but I'm failing to forgive myself. So everyone is they have their own level of trauma, like of what has happened to them. But I think the healing journey starts with confronting that truth.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that answer. Can we take one more question from the audience? Yes, we have another gentleman here. Let's make the questions as brief as we can, okay? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Papi Patrick. I am a teacher. I am a teacher for both literature and psychology. And today has been very interesting to me. And, I believe that such kind of work that we are celebrating today is very crucial to the youth, especially to the people that I work with because I teach at a high school level. And then I doubt that they have, question is, I want to ask if there is a way you're thinking of maybe making this such content accessible to them, maybe at the school level, and then yeah. So that's actually my concern. Thank you very much.
So that looks like that's a question for me. Yes, we are, with the kind contribution and support of BK Foundation, we actually are planning to visit a couple of high schools with the book, and hopefully with whichever survivor would be available on the dates to share their stories. We also, I think, I don't know if Claver is still in the audience, he definitely has given his time and authorship to create books for the much younger children. So we have a children's book around the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi available for really, really young children with the vocabulary that they would understand. But for this specific project, we are planning to go into a couple of high schools, studying in Kigali, more provinces we will visit, and to really try to make sure that the much younger generation continues to be involved. I hope that answers your question. Yes, and then you can come to me as well. Yes, thank you. Yes, can we have this gentleman at the front? We have 2 more questions, and then, oops.
Thank you so much. I think it's a bit selfish because I had enough time to talk. But I can't leave this room. Some people have used terrific, but without expressing my comfort, the comfort I have now. You know, this generation gap. People think, we have seen it. We have experienced this. What if we live? What after? So now, I see you are in a driving seat. I am really, yeah, please clap for them. Because this is what we all say, after us, after us. We have seen it, we have lived it, and after what is going to happen? We see now that fear, you have chased away that fear, that concern. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I think looking at the book itself, looking at this panel, I think now Dr. Joseph is not complaining. Looking at the panel now, you have got the answer. I was telling my friend in Greece, saying, I can just go and rest. Not to die, but
yes.
But maybe retire.
Yes.
Because we see, but we have learned from our history. Looking at the liberation struggle, the guys, the brave guys who stopped genocide, who liberated the country, were at a very young age. And sometimes we forget and starting to say, those are too young, you are too young, you are not able to do this and this. So we are now, we feel discomfort, and thank you so much.
We have Rosette. Yes?
This generation gap, you have just set a bridge.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
instead
you
of
very
this
much.
gap. Thanks so much.
We have Rosette at the back, and then the briefer we can be, the quicker we can go home and enjoy the holiday. Yes, Rosette is right there. Yes, thank you, Manzi.
Thank you very much. I didn't plan to really ask this question, but I was very touched with the stories, and I want to thank you very much, Dominique. This is very powerful. And my question is really around children who were born from survivors' family. And I personally, I think, as you grow up and you see how your parents were behaving during Kwibuka, and maybe it didn't make so much sense when you were a kid, but then now it's making sense. And they struggle telling you stories. But also, you also want to know. You read, you want to know, and you also want to help them with healing. I think this question will go to Irma. What are some of the tips that you can give us to help them with the healing, or even speaking up and I've been watching your stories on Instagram. These are very powerful stories. But now, how do we help parents and our, I don't know, maybe aunties speak up and also give us these stories? Because we also need to start documenting these stories for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. So for me, personally, I think I started really asking questions probably 2 years ago, like real questions about the journey and what we were actually going through. And up to today, I can't say that I have a full picture of the journey. But the thing about approaching your parents and telling them, hey, we are now grown-ups and we need to know our roots. For example, in 2016, my adoptive dad told me, I was on holidays with my sister, one of my big sisters, and he just told us randomly, please get ready, tomorrow we're going on a trip. I need to take you and show you where your dad was born. Umusozi, agasozi, aho papa wanyu yari atuye. Okay, we were surprised. And he was like, yeah, it's important for you to actually know your roots and your history. And then he took us, atujyana ku Gikongoro. Umusozi wose nta nzu nimwe yari ihari. Ni umusozi nyine uri aho uriho ishyamba. And then he was like, so you see this entire mountain, this is where your dad and your grandparents were born. This is where they grew up. And we were like, okay, but there is no house, there is nothing. They're like, yeah, it used to be houses, it was a big, huge village. But they literally killed an entire village. On the side of my dad, I don't even know an auntie, an uncle, a cousin, no one on the side of my dad. Recently, actually this April, I don't think I told you, someone messaged me on Instagram because I posted a picture of my mom. And then there was a picture of my mom and there was a picture of my mom and my dad. And someone sent me a message. It's like, hello, I want to ask you, that man standing beside your mother, is that your father? I said, yes. And that person said, my goodness, I know that man. He was my professor. He loved me so much. He actually raised me. He said so many good things. And then he said, I don't live in Rwanda, but I wanted to ask you, if I come to Rwanda, can I visit your dad? Can I visit your father? I was like, he's dead, like he was killed. He's no longer here. And then that person asked me, can I talk to you on the phone? He told me so many stories. And then he's like, actually, I feel like I never got a closure because I even came back after the genocide to look for your dad because he was like a father to me. And because no one told me how he was killed, where he was buried, I kept on thinking he was alive. So that's a random person. I've never met him before. So even the adoptive parents, the aunties, the tutors that we have, we really need to approach them and keep asking them questions because they are growing old. And we need to document this. And this is like through memory, this is how we're keeping our lost ones alive. So I think we really need to keep approaching them. And I feel like they're kind of getting ready to share. Years back, it was taboo. You couldn't even ask a question. Like, no, don't talk about it, don't touch it. It was a taboo. But now, because we are growing up, they see me sharing stories, they see me building homes of survivors. So they're like, oh, the kids have grown up and they are ready to receive the truth. So go ahead and ask them. I think they're ready to share.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I believe, I know I see you, but I believe this is all the time we have. We have to give, we have a book handover ceremony that we would like to have with the people who contributed to the books, at least those who are here. So I want to thank our panel. Please feel free to meet with them, take their numbers, interact with them. But I want to thank you all for sharing. I know that the audience has learned. I know something has changed for us, and I want you to be proud. May the healing continue. May the healing start for those who are still exploring healing. I thank you very much. Can we give them a round of applause?
Dominique, because I'm a writer and a poet and a theater director, and we do a lot of healing, we can't just go like that.
Okay.
So I would love to read a short poem from the frustration of a mother trying to tell a child about the story they hold, because as a mother, they keep bringing children to the world and the world takes them. And it takes 9 months for a child to be made, but it takes 20 years to make a man and 20 seconds of war to destroy them. But they keep bringing children. So how do they tell them the truth? So I would love to read for you this poem. It's called How Do I Tell? And it's from the voice of my mother, who never told me I was a refugee for a long time. Till my own classmate said, when are you going back to Rwanda? Yeah. So how do I tell? How do I tell my children the truth? How do I take their innocence, turn their eyes from the light they have known to the darkness I have seen? How? They ask and ask and ask, but how do I start? We argue and argue and argue, but how do I begin? They don't see me, I don't see them. My truth is hidden in my pain. I want to tell them, but I have to protect them. And the only way through this is my story. So tell me, how do I start? How do I tell them that I'm still putting the pieces together? How? I am me, but I'm someone else too. I am the child who grew up with no home, my childhood taken, for I was seeking a home. My home did not want me. My home did not claim me. Born with no birth date, my name a means to an end. But how do I tell them? But how will they understand? I can't hide the truth forever. Should I tell them that I have stared death in the eye? I have dodged it countless times, only to learn that death is part of life. Death is a fact of life. From dust to dust, from crumbling soils, from falling leaves, from earth we are born, to earth we return. How do I tell them that this life is fleeing like a shooting star? How?
A round of applause as you take your seats back, and I hand over to Manzi and Fiona. Thank you.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup encore à tous les participants, aux intervenants des panels. Merci. Donc maintenant, on va passer à la cérémonie de remise des livres. Et je vais rappeler Dominique sur scène et aussi
So as Dominique comes, we also, thank you so much, Manzi. As Dominique comes, we also want to welcome the representative of BK Foundation. I believe she's the secretary. And then we also love to welcome the representative of Aegis Trust, Mr. Alphonse Munyenwari, so that they help us hand over the books to the storytellers or those who were courageous enough to tell their stories and make up the compilation that we have tonight. So we're going to read all the names, and whoever hears their name, please join us on the stage so that you can receive your book. One more person, the representative of Minunge, kindly join the clue here. So I'm reading the names. Policy Denis, please honor them, honor their courage. Beata Uwamariza Habyarimana, Marie-Jeanne Mukankuranga, Monseigneur Servilien Nzakamwita, Dimitri Sissi Mukanyirigira, Sheikh Abdul Karim Harerimana, Honorable Yvonne Waisenga, Albert Sengimana, Dr. Joseph Ngurinziza, I believe he's around. Kindly join us to receive the book.
Bear with us, some of them are all over the world. But thank you so much, Dr. Joseph.
So, Alois Wemeimana, Eugène Nyagahene, Christian Inwari, Albert Mudatsimburwa, Hope Azeda, Fanuel Sindaiheba, Javon Guije Mugabe, Malaika Uwamahoro, Sonia Mugabo, Albert Lutikanga, Irma Ihumure, Gérard Sina, Brave Olivier Ngabo, Antoine Nagijimana, Françoise Muhongaire, Valérie Mukansanga, Juliette Mukabahiro, Nason Karenzi, Irene Mizero, Aline Umulizaboro, Charles Luanga Rukundo, So those are the 30 people who had the courage and thank you so much for helping us with the handover. I believe we are proceeding with the closing remarks. Okay?
Oui, la soirée touche à sa fin. Merci à tous d'avoir participé à cette soirée. Je pense que c'était une soirée riche en enseignements, en émotions. Je vais juste demander à l'honorable docteur Lutaïsile de venir faire le discours de fin et après vous pouvez vous rejoindre les stands pour acheter le livre.
Welcome, Honorable Rutaiside, for the closing remarks. Thank you so much.
Yeah, mwiriwe nanone. Yeah, Country Director of Aegis Trust Rwanda, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, nshuti bavandimwe, mwiriwe muraho. It has been a long but very interesting evening, and I really don't have much to add other than just saying thank you. Thank you to everyone. And in particular, I want to thank Imagine We, the organizers of this event, and of course, institutions and organizations that supported them in this endeavor, the others and the people who share their stories. And also I want to really say a big thank you to people who gave us their testimonies this evening, again, especially Irima and Mugabo. I have really to say that this book is really a wonderful initiative in so many ways. 3 decades, that's 30 years, it's a very long time if you really look at it from a human life, a human being lifespan kind of perspective. But it's also a short time in the life of a society, especially if it has to be literally be remade from ashes of a genocide, just as it happened here in Rwanda following the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. The 30 stories we have in this book actually mirror millions of other stories, stories of one shared journey of rediscovered hope, unity, and resilience. These stories show once again that there is more than one way of understanding Rwanda and talking about the history of Rwanda. If one could liken the time of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, and even before, to a time of being in a very big, deep, and dark cave, then each book we have telling us the history of genocide will be like a candle shedding light on a given hidden corner of that cave. And the implication is, or will be, that the more books we will have, then the more light we will have shed on our history. And that will enable us to dispel the distortion of our history and negationist attempt, just like the sunlight brightens a foggy morning. This is particularly relevant to our young people who, in this time of cutting-edge technology, are exposed to multiple sources of information, some of which are nothing but a fog of confusion and distorted history. This book, 30 Years, 30 Stories, is a good example of young, committed citizens willing to engage with voices from all areas of our society to tell the story of our journey of 30 years after the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. Telling our story, our true story, I mean, is our shared responsibility. We must not let anyone else do it on our behalf. The last 30 years have clearly showed us that a united people can overcome any challenge and thrive. Let our lived experiences and advice compiled in this book be our source of inspiration for the next 30 years. In the Ministry of National Unity and Civic Engagement, we have the mandate of preserving the history of Rwanda and of the genocide against the Tutsi in particular. And we are very much open to collaborating and partnering with anyone in this noble mission. Today, we are particularly supporting and encouraging our young people to learn about the history of our country. And one of the ways to do it is to engage with genuine source of information. Let me also call upon us, adults, parents. It's our responsibility to avail ourselves and be supportive to our youth. Let's listen to them. Let's engage them in a conversation. Let's hear their concerns and hopes. And of course, answer their questions in the most honest way, we possibly can. We cannot afford to fail them. We have one story to tell. Let's use our 1,000 voices to tell it to the world, and let's start at home. Murakoze, turacyari mu gihe cyo kwibuka abacu bazize jenoside yakorewe abatutsi, dukomeze twibuke twiyubaka. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much. And we appreciate once again your participation and having come to join us as we launch the 30 Years, 30 Stories. Of course, as it says, let light of hope, the light of hope will always shine. So we have copies either from the left and the right side ready for purchase, but you can also use the QR codes on the banners, both here and here in the outside, for you to book when you should be able to go get your copy. Once again, please give yourself a round of applause for having made it this far. And once again, I was Fiona Mukashima with my colleague.
Manziru Girangoga.
It was an honor to host this event. Thank you so much.
Merci et bonne soirée.